Hello everyone, my name is Olivia and welcome to a new reading vlog. I am going to be reading a couple of books that remind me of The Last of Us. The Last of Us is one of my favorite video games despite the fact that I'm not a gamer. My friend actually played the entire game for me in either the beginning of college or the end of high school, and I became enamored by this post-apocalyptic story that I have been searching for years upon years. One of my favorite subgenres in sci-fi is apocalypse stories, and I just find them so fascinating because there are different ways to explore the end of the world and the rebirth after the fact, and also really delve into humanity and decency and how people can maintain that while also other groups of people can slowly but surely lose their grip on humanity and what makes people decent. So we were a couple of weeks into The Last of Us, the show, which finally premiered, and now that we're a couple of weeks into the show, I can gladly say it's probably going to become one of my favorite shows of all time. It is so true to the game while also expanding the world around them as we delve into what caused the apocalypse, Joel's backstory, Tess's backstory, and Ellie's backstory as well, as we also develop the side characters along the way. In case you don't know the plot of The Last of Us and you haven't seen the show or you haven't watched the game, it is set after a global pandemic destroys civilization, and a hardened survivor takes charge of a 14-year-old girl who may be humanity's last hope. I have always wanted to have a show or a movie really explore the downfall of humanity and how people can cling on to that, and I think that this story is so strong, and it's only getting stronger with the show because they put so much attention to detail into it. They really kept the fans of the games in mind when creating the show with the little Easter eggs that they have, while also expanding the world into this brand new storyline that keeps us somewhat surprised, but we do know where it's heading. And Pedro Pascal as Joel is absolutely perfect, and Bella Ramsey as Ellie is absolutely perfect. They are the perfect duo. They are grumpy, they are snarky to each other, and we really get to see their relationship progress as the show and the game progresses as well. So the week before the show came out, I actually rewatched the entire gameplay because I wanted to refresh my memory, because I can watch something and then rewatch it over again like 2 months down the line and not remember a thing. And once the show came out, I had the idea to read a couple of books that remind me of The Last of Us, particularly the relationship between Joel and Ellie. I really like that dynamic of a reluctant parent and how they have to take care of this child that isn't their own, and they have to protect them against all odds in a very dangerous landscape like a post-apocalyptic setting. So the first book that I picked up for this vlog that everyone recommended if you wanted to read something like The Last of Us was The Road. So The Road follows a man and a son as they are walking down the road to try and get to the south because they are in a climate where it's incredibly cold, it is ashen, and there's not a lot of food, so they are trying to go to the south where it's going to be warmer and hopefully they'll have better conditions to live in. We actually don't know why the apocalypse started in the road, but I have a theory that it was probably like a nuclear apocalypse because everything is burned and there's not a lot of things to survive on. There's barely any food and anyone alive, so I'm thinking what situation would cause that to happen where a lot of people are literally burnt to a crisp, and I thought maybe a nuclear war happened, maybe countries were fighting on all sides, and the people who were left in the aftermath were people who were left on this barren earth. I don't think we're gonna know how the apocalypse started in The Road because we do just follow the man and the son who are unnamed, and they are not scientists. They're not going to know how it started, and they're not really going to discuss it. So I'm officially halfway through The Road, and I have already cried like twice while reading it because this is probably one of the most stressful and depressing books that I have ever read in a while, and I love sad stories. If you follow my channel, you know I love a good sad story. And when I say this story is sad, it is so incredibly sad. And at the beginning, I did find it a bit difficult to get into because the writing style was very weird. It took a while to get used to, but once I got into it around like 50 to 75 pages, I was speeding through this entire novel, and I really had to make sure I sat down to give this update because I'm greatly enjoying it, even though it feels so incredibly desolate, so heartbreaking to watch a man try and protect his son, who in my mind is around 5 or 6. He's a very young boy who is starving because there's not a lot of food anywhere. And I'm going to get into a couple of spoilers here, but I did want to discuss it because I really do want to dive deeper into this book and discuss my thoughts about it. So a little spoiler warning here, but one thing that I found incredibly sad about this book was the fact that that the man was so dead set on having 2 bullets in his gun. And I thought, okay, it must be more than just a weapon to him. Why is he so worried about these 2 bullets and using one? Because throughout the story, he has to protect him and his son, and he only has 1 bullet left. And I realized that the reason why he's so obsessed about this is those 2 bullets were to take out him and his son in case any danger arises and they couldn't get out of a situation. And now that he only has 1 bullet, he's only able to take out his son, and he's not able to take out himself, so he's going to have to not only protect his son, but then live through the consequence of losing his son. And when I realized that, I started crying because it wasn't necessarily discussed in the novel, but when you click those pieces together in your mind, you feel so sad for the dad because he has so much pressure on his shoulders to keep his son alive, and you're wondering, why is he keeping his son alive? Because this world is so sad and gray and hopeless, and he's trying to keep him alive because he loves his son and he lives for his son. But if he did lose his son, there's nothing to live for. So watching these 2 characters be so reliant on each other reminded me of Joel and Ellie and the way that they rely on each other to survive. Joel doesn't necessarily have a lot of people in his life anymore because he's lost them over time, but he has Ellie and he lives for her because he wants to protect her and have her see a future. And that reminded me so much of The Road and why people recommended it. So while the writing style is very stream of conscious and it's very difficult to get into, once you get used to it, you really enjoy it, and I'm just really excited to continue on with the book because I have around 100 pages left and I just want to know how it's going to end. I'm so scared. I'm so scared. I don't know if the father is going to live. I don't know if the son is going to have to die so he can protect him from the cannibals and the weirdos out there in the world. This book has such evil characters and you barely even see them. You just see them in little glimpses, but those little glimpses are enough to intimidate you, and it makes you realize that some people in society really regress and become the worst versions of themselves during situations like this. I'm really scared that they aren't going to make it to the South because they haven't made a lot of progress because they were starving, and they did come across a bunker that has a lot of food and supplies, and that kept them going, but I'm worried that they're gonna lose those supplies. I'm really worried that something's going to happen to the kid, and I'm just like so emotionally attached to the kid. I want to like fictionally adopt him and give him soup because he's just so innocent and so good. And one thing that gets to me is that he always asks the dad if they're still the good guys in this because they have come across so many bad guys that the kid is just clinging on to this hopefulness and this goodness that he hopes he still has in his heart. And he really does. He's a nice boy. He's so sweet and caring to his father, and he really tries to protect him just the way that the father tries to protect the son. And it's just so sad. I kind of wonder if the father even named the son because the son was born right before the apocalypse, and I just wonder if he even had the heart to name a child if he's worried that he's gonna lose the child. So I don't even know if the kid has a name, and that makes me even sadder. This book is just so sad. So after work today, I'm going to try and read more, film my reactions, and then give you another update because wow, this book is phenomenal. I already bought a copy, by the way. It made me cry. It's so sad. And yet I want to add it to my collection because I haven't had a book make me feel this way in a while. This book is so sad. The boy is sick. The boy is sick, and I don't think he's getting any better. I texted my friend like all my thoughts about this book because he told me to read it, and I texted him, my son is sick, I'm gonna lose my shit. And then I texted, I legally adopted the boy in the book. Please respect my decision as a newfound mother. I'm so nervous. I'm so nervous. I also can't really hear myself because these Bose headphones are really good. So I don't know if I'm yelling. Let me know if I'm yelling. I'm not even done. Anyway. What did Cormac McCarthy do to make a book this sad? Dude. I finished it. I was so right to not put on mascara for today because I knew I was gonna be a mess. I think this is one of my favorite books of all time. I am like too emotionally exhausted to even form thoughts about my feelings about this book. I've like felt the full range of the human emotion through it, and it was like such a simplistic book. It was such a simple premise. The writing style was very different and unique, but also incredibly simple and approachable. And through that, you feel so much along the way when you journey alongside these characters. And it's just to examine like the worst possible scenario of humanity and like these two people trying to survive with each other. It just hits different. It especially hits different if you're like me and your prefrontal cortex is fully formed because you're 25 and you just feel this overwhelming amount of empathy and like emotion at all times. Like I feel like my emotions are so much more heightened now that I'm 25 and now that I'm like a full adult. I just feel so much for fictional characters and for like people in general. So like reading this scenario was just a lot. And what am I going to do today to even make this worse? I think I'm going to watch the movie. I feel like emotionally that's not a good decision for me to make today. But I want to still live in the moment of the book. So I do want to see the movie. I'm gonna check to see if it's on streaming. And then I might watch it today. Also, the guy, Aragorn, from Lord of the Rings, he's the main guy in the movie. Vigo, I don't remember his last name. But I haven't seen him in anything but Lord of the Rings, so I'm really excited to see him in The Road. Oh my god, I don't even know if the movie's gonna be sadder than the book. I'm scared. And I watched the movie, and the movie finished, and I literally covered my face, sobbed, and said, "That was good." The Road is probably one of my new favorite books of all time. I did not expect to enjoy it as much as I did. This novel affected me in so many ways, probably because I'm really fascinated by post-apocalyptic fiction in books and movies and shows, and I've always wanted one that explored humanity, explored relationships, and explored the loss of goodness overall, and this book did that. This book did that on a very small lens between a father and a son, and that relationship and their struggle to survive in a world that doesn't seem worth the effort was absolutely amazing. Their relationship was beautiful and heartfelt, and you can really see the parallels between Joel and Ellie, who have that similar relationship where they're trying to survive against all odds. They are coming across different people who are either good or bad, and you don't really know until it's too late. And the journey that they go on is very similar to Joel and Ellie, where they are going to a different location, and they are these two very unlikely people just put together in this situation, forced to survive. And The Road is much sadder, in my opinion, than The Last of Us. I don't know. saying that out loud, I'm like, I don't know, they're both very sad, but in very different ways. This one just really affected me. I was sobbing, as you saw when I finished it. It's not a grand story. There's not a bunch of different storylines following different people trying to survive. It's just a father and a son, and that beautiful relationship where a father feels a sense of duty to protect his son, and then he also is coming to terms with the fact that his son one day will have to survive without him. And he's a very young boy. He has this goodness in his soul that a lot of people don't have who were surviving in this world, because a lot of the people who are still left alive are adults. So they knew the world beforehand. They are jaded. They lost their humanity. But we witness this boy who is born with this humanity. He's born with goodness and kindness. And you see that contrasted with his dad, who is jaded. He is tired of living, but he's only living for his kid. And I feel like that's very similar to Joel and Ellie's situation. Ellie has this sense of hope, this sense of purpose, and Joel doesn't have a purpose. He lost that purpose when he lost his daughter before this whole entire scenario began in The Last of Us. But he found his purpose in Ellie, the same way that the father found his purpose in protecting his son. And I love those parallels. I do think if you love The Last of Us and you want something on a similar level, they're very different though, then you would greatly enjoy The Road. The movie was also fantastic, and it was just a perfect adaptation of The Road. The way that they stayed so true to the story, they didn't change a lot of the dialogue, because the dialogue in this book is very few and far in between. People aren't really talking a lot in it because they have to stay quiet to try and survive, because if someone else hears them, they can hurt them. So they kept a lot of the dialogue from the book and put it into the movie, and watching it come to life and just watching the scenes play out right after finishing the book was fantastic. They really stayed true to the story. They brought that depressing atmosphere to life, and it was just absolutely fantastic. I'm so glad I found a favorite book out of this reading vlog, and I have to thank everyone who recommended this to me over on Reddit, on TikTok, for books that remind you of The Last of Us. So cannot rave about this enough. I will probably mention it in so many future videos because it just really left an impression on me. But I do want to talk about the next book that I'm currently reading that reminds me of The Last of Us, that a lot of people recommended online if you wanted to read books like The Last of Us, and it is called The Girl with All the Gifts by M.R. Carey. The Girl with All the Gifts is a book that gives me a lot more Ellie vibes than Joel and Ellie vibes. So we follow this girl who is in a government facility along with a bunch of other kids, and they are being experimented on. They're being raised in a very sterile environment, and they are seen as a threat to society. We don't really know what their gifts are, but we just follow this girl as she is going through her daily life, as she is being taught by these teachers in this facility, as she's being spoken to rudely by these soldiers who see her as a threat, even though she's probably maybe like 7 or 8, maybe even 6 or 7. I'm not sure her age. I don't think they say it in the book. But I am 32% through this audiobook because my library doesn't have it physically, so I have to listen to it on audiobook, which I don't mind because the audiobook narrator sounds like the narrator for Spaceship Earth in Epcot. Is the train going to interrupt me? Most probably yes. But it's fine. We're gonna keep on going until it interrupts me. So we follow this main character, Melanie. An apocalypse happened, and it is actually related to cordyceps, which is what caused the apocalypse in The Last of Us. So when I heard that tidbit of information in this book, I paused it and I was like, this is why. This is why everyone's telling me to read it. And I am enjoying it so much. We follow primarily Melanie and her experience in this facility as she is going through her daily life. She's going to classes, she's being mistreated by the soldiers who are meant to watch her and the other children. And we also see her form a connection with a teacher who sees her not as a threat, not as a weapon, but as a child. And through that perspective, we also sometimes see the teacher's perspective or the soldier's perspective. They're not the main character in the story, story, but they are making appearances in the storyline to kind of teach you about what caused the apocalypse and how this facility works and how this teacher is going against guidelines to befriend Melanie. And it is so good so far. It reminds me a lot of Ellie and how she was treated in Fedra. It just reminds me how everyone does see Ellie as a threat, unlike Joel, who sees her as a piece of hope, a piece of humanity that he has to protect. So I'm hoping to read more of it this weekend to eventually finish the story because I'm 1/3 of the way through, but I am greatly enjoying it. I think it's very different from The Road, which was just sadness all around, but this one has like a centralized mystery and it has a lot of action, and it's very different. There's very different things that you can get from both of these books. This is like the Joel and Ellie relationship and just like sadness that The Last of Us also has, but then this one's more about Ellie. I'm enjoying it and I cannot wait to update you on my thoughts once I get further into it. So I finished A Girl with All the Gifts and I had a really good time with it, which makes me so happy that I read 2 really amazing post-apocalyptic books in this reading vlog, which gave me the same vibes as The Last of Us while still being completely unique and engaging in their own form of storytelling. The Road was absolutely fantastic and became one of my favorite reads of all time, and The Girl with All the Gifts was a really unique look at the apocalypse told through the eyes of a young girl who is seen as a threat to everyone else. We see her interactions with the scientists around her, with the teachers, with the officers, and we see them go on this journey in this very barren and very violent landscape, and we get to see all these different characters grow and how they form a relationship with Melanie, how they don't trust her, and it was a very cool, very engaging audiobook to listen to. It's definitely not on the same level as The Road for me in terms of my enjoyment level, but I still had a really good time with it listening to the audiobook. I thought it was so fun to listen to, and I also found out that there's a movie for it. I'm not going to watch it for this vlog, and I haven't heard a lot of things about it, so I'm probably going to skip that for this reading vlog, but I did want to mention that both of these books have a movie that you can watch after you read these books, and these are 2 books that I would highly recommend if you want to read books that feel like The Last of Us. The Road is perfect for people who are looking for a relationship and a journey similar to Joel and Ellie, and The Girl with All the Gifts is very similar to Ellie's journey in the first game. So both of these books are definitely worth your time if you are also a fan of The Last of Us and you're looking for something similar in novel form. And I also really enjoyed the fact that The Girl with All the Gifts also dealt with cordyceps. I thought that was such a cool concept, and I love how it's rooted in actual science and how if there was a possibility that they can overtake humans, they can turn us into zombies. I think that science is really cool, and it's definitely something that I want to learn a little bit more about because of The Last of Us and because of The Girl with All the Gifts. And I just had a great time with this reading vlog. I had such a fun time reading The Road, even though you saw me sobbing and just losing my mind over it. I had a great time with The Girl with All the Gifts, listening to it, watching Melanie's journey as she works alongside these scientists and teachers and officers, and they are trying to survive the apocalypse. I thought that these books would actually bring down my mood because they are pretty heavy topics, but I still really enjoy post-apocalyptic stories. I think they're so fascinating in the way that you can explore what caused it, people's reactions to it, how people work together, how people turn against each other. There are so many different ways that you can look at post-apocalyptic stories. If you have any other book book recommendations, movie recommendations, or show recommendations that remind you of The Last of Us, put them down below and let me know if there are any other reading or movie challenges that you want me to do in the future. Are there specific movies that you want me to see that remind you of a story? Are there any books that you want me to read that would remind you of a show or a movie? I would love to do these types of challenges in the future, and if you have any ideas, I would love to hear them out. And if you have made it this far in the video, comment down a mushroom emoji down below in honor of the cordyceps that caused the apocalypse in The Last of Us and the girl with all the gifts. So thank you so much for sticking around, and I will see you in another video very soon. Bye!